Dr. Wayne here, and I've been getting some questions about applications of productive tension and the change grid. So first off, what is this productive tension? Productive tension is all about the amount of intellectual, emotional, and physical activity going on in a person in any given moment. So we've always got some level of productive tension. It ranges from very low productive tension to very high. Well, how do we assess this? The quick way to determine someone's level of productive tension is to pick an activity, because this is how we work with productive tension. It's not a psychometric tool, this is not a personality sorter, this is really specifically tied to a given activity. So we choose an activity. For example, you may have an activity on your to-do list of finishing a piece of writing. So we're going to choose the activity of completing this writing. Wonderful. So you just need to answer a couple of questions about that particular activity. First question is, what is your perceived level of ability? Obviously this ranges from very low, no ability whatsoever, to very high, I have much ability to write this, to complete writing this piece. That range, coupled with a comparable range for challenge, what is your perceived level of challenge in doing this activity? So what is your perceived level of challenge in completing this particular writing piece? It ranges from very low to very high. If we really want to get formal, both of these numbers can range from 0 to 12. And with these two numbers in mind, we can then take a look at what is your productive tension from this. So what are the choices? The choices are, I have very low ability and high challenge. So if my challenge greatly exceeds my ability, I am in the level of productive tension labeled stress. Stress, the key word is panic. I know I need to do something. I do anything. Tell me what to do. I just need to do it. This is not a place where we make great decisions. The other end of the spectrum, when the challenge is ridiculously low and our ability far exceeds our perceived level of challenge, then we're in the state that is labeled apathy. This doesn't mean we don't care. What it really means is that we are so in control of the situation, or feel that we're in control of the situation, because there's that illusion of control, that we don't feel any need to change. Do something? I don't need to do anything. When we've got the moderate, where our ability and our challenge match, this leads to a moderate level of productive tension. This is labeled power. This is where flow, this is where balance, this is where shopping occurs. I know that I need to do something. I'm just not sure what I want to do yet. I haven't decided. In between these, we've got a couple other states. And the one that's more interesting is the idea of power stress. So somewhere between the ability and challenge being balanced in power and having our challenge greatly exceed our ability is this range of power stress. This is where our ability almost reaches the challenge that we're perceiving. So this is the place where we are ready to take action. This is the place where we are going out and getting things done. I know what I need to do, and in fact, I'm headed off to do that right now. Thank you. So, just for completeness sake, the fifth level of productive tension is power apathy, which falls between power and apathy. This is where the challenge does not quite reach up to where your ability is, so you have a little excess capacity. This is where you may delegate and get rid of this task. I know I need to do something, I guess, but I don't want to do it, so let's give it to someone else. So, how do we apply this back to our writing? We've got this activity of completing a particular writing piece. We take that moment, snapshot. At the moment, what do we feel our perceived level of ability is? What is our perceived level of challenge? We find ourselves in one of these 5 states. What it does is tells us what our current attitude about that particular activity is. It tells us what our chances of actually completing that activity are, since it's completing this piece of writing. If you were up in stress, how likely are you to finish that piece of writing? Highly unlikely, because you're more likely to be spazzing about this, that, and the other thing and not actually doing the thing that needs to be done. If we're down in apathy, where we've got all this excess ability compared to the challenge, how likely are we to get it done? Again, not very likely, but for a different reason. This is because, it's so easy. I'll get it done maybe someday, and it just never really happens because we don't have the level of productive tension to make it happen. What about power? If we're in power, this is where we're actually out researching and shopping and collecting more information, but not actually doing the writing. So, where would we like to be? Well, we can either hand it off in power apathy, or if we need to do the writing, we want ourselves to be in that level of productive tension, power, stress. This is getting stuff done, doing the right thing that needs to be done. Notice the challenge has to be just a little bit more than we think we can handle. That's what puts us into power stress. If it gets too high on the challenge compared to your ability, you end up in stress and you run around like a headless chicken. If it gets too low, the challenge for what your perceived level of ability, you fall back into that into that power, and you go shopping. You go do more research instead of actually doing the activity. So, natural tendency is that over time, our perception of the challenge goes down, our perception of our abilities goes up, which means that our level of productive tension drops over time. This is essentially gravity pulling you down, unless you're doing something to prevent that. What we have are many, many different ways that we can raise our productive tension, because remember, productive tension is all about intellectual, emotional, and physical activity. So, we can raise our productive tension just by standing up and moving around. That increases our physical activity. We can awaken emotions and raise up into some of those upgrade emotions. And if we can step into the emotions that go with a higher level of productive tension, then we can increase our tension. We can change the task. So rather than if we think, well, we've got all sorts of ability for this piece of writing, what if now the task is completing the piece of writing in a very limited time frame? Well, that's a different task entirely, isn't it? It's now not just writing, but it's doing it quickly. That may change your perception of your ability and challenge and raise your productive tension. We can also see that if we increase the standards, so it's not just writing this piece of writing that completing this piece of writing that we've set aside to do, it's doing it impeccably, it's doing it flawlessly, it is doing it to standards that the editing is minor, if at all, needed. It may be, rather than writing the draft, which may be what someone thinks of immediately when they say completing a piece of writing, it may now be completing a piece of writing ready for publication, which could be a completely different task, and we've probably increased the standards doing that. So, we've got a few of these example maneuvers that we can do to raise someone's tension. On the off chance that you either have started up in stress or you are too productive in raising that tension, then you may want to do a couple of downgrade maneuvers, that is, to reduce your tension. And those look like normalizing. Everyone goes through that. It looks like simplifying, the opposite of changing the task and increasing the standards. We're really just, let's just get the draft done, right? Let's get a video shot. Let's get something on the page. Whatever the piece is that you're doing, you can simplify that, reduce the tension, make it so that the person does not feel it's as big a challenge, and they may actually get it done if you can get them down into that power stress range. All of these pieces mean that if you are in a learning environment and you are increasing your ability over time, you also need to be increasing the challenge to be able to drive yourself into the right level of productive tension to actually take action, get things done, and keep moving, which is the opposite of what we tend to do. We say, oh great, we've mastered this thing, now I'm just going to keep doing it because I'm good at it now. And that drives our level of tension down to the point where we're unlikely to actually follow through. So, hopefully this example with a to-do item of completing a piece of writing has helped to expand your view of what we can do with the change grid and the levels of productive tension. And we'll talk to you soon. Continue asking those questions, drop them in the comments, let me know via email, however you have contact with me. Let me know what is going on, and I am happy to address your other questions. Have a good day.